This is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this talk we'll study the fable of the boasting traveler in Aesop's Fables. Let's read the fable together. We'll talk about the characters in the fable, then we'll discuss the moral lessons that we learn from this fable and reflect on how we can use this fable to live wisely in our own lives. Let's read the Boasting Traveler by Aesop. A man was one day entertaining a lot of fellows in an alehouse with an account of the wonders he had done when abroad on his travels. "I was once at Rhodes," said he, "and the people of Rhodes, you know, are famous for jumping. Well, I took a jump there that no other man could come within a yard of. That's a fact, and if we were there, I could bring you 10 men who would prove it. What need is there to go to Rhodes for witnesses?" asked one of his hearers. "Just imagine that you are there, and show us your leap." This is the fable of the boasting traveler. So the first thing we should always do when we study Aesop's fables is paraphrase the fable, or relate the fable with our own words from our own memory. So what happens in this fable? There's a man, and he's in a tavern, an alehouse, and he's talking with some other men about something that he did far off. He said he once traveled to Rhodes, which is an island, and while he was there, he performed some great jump, some Olympic-type jump that no one could come even close to. And he says that if we were to go there, I could show you plenty of people who would tell you about it. So this man is in this tavern boasting about past achievements in the present, boasting about things he did at another time somewhere else, assuring everyone that there are witnesses of these things and that they should trust him. Just trust him. He really has done these great things. But he's checked by another man at the tavern who says, "Well, I understand that you did that some time ago in another place, and there may be witnesses who experienced that, but what good is that to us? Who cares? Even if it was true, who cares? If you can't do it here, if you can't do it now, who cares?" And the traveler obviously can't repeat this great feat now or here at the tavern, so that just turns out to be the end of the story. This is the fable of the boasting traveler. So what's the moral? What's the moral lesson of this fable? There's a proverb in the Bible, you can look it up. It says, "Let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. Let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. And in that proverb, which is inspired by the Holy Spirit, we see that there's nothing wrong with desiring praise. It's natural for us to desire praise. Really, the question is not whether you desire praise or not, but whose praise you desire. Good people want to be praised by good men, and foolish people like to be praised by foolish men. The motivation for our Christian life is the hope that one day we will be praised by God Himself. Jesus said in the Gospels that on Judgment Day, at judgment, God will say to the faithful, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And it's that praise that motivates the lives of the saints. They look forward to the day when Christ will say to them, "Well done, good and faithful servant." They look forward to being praised by God Himself, God who knows all things, even the secrets of our hearts, even what's done in the dark, in secret, when no one else sees. Saints know that God sees, and God will praise those who do good even in secret, and they desire God's praise. And they desire the praise of good men as well, wise men. So there's nothing wrong with desiring praise. But what the proverb teaches us is that what matters is who is the source of the praise. If we're praised by evil men, then that praise should make us ashamed. But in this fable we read of a different kind of praise. We read of a man praising himself. And here we have the violation of that proverb. Let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. Don't boast about your own achievements. We see in this fable, this man is boasting about something done in a different place at a different time. He's boasting about something that no one else seems to be praising him for. No one else seems to know about or talk about. But he's praising himself for this distant deed. And he's obviously doing so that he can gain some respect among the people in the alehouse or at the tavern. He wants to be respected by other people, and he's forced to turn to some distant event to find something to make him respectable. And we don't even know if it's true or not. But he's forced to turn to find something to praise himself for that is remote and distant. And when someone does this, it can only be because there's nothing present for him to offer as respectable. He has no present achievements. And so he's forced to talk about some distant event and possibly even make up a story about some distant event. The danger that a boastful person faces when he makes up stories is that at any time he could be called to prove it. And we should all have the guts that this other man in the story has to say, you know what? Why don't you show us? Why don't you prove it? Why don't you show us that you're a great jumper? And the man could say, oh, well, that was long ago. I don't know if... Yeah, but you know what? If you were once a great jumper, even if you're older now and you can't jump like you used to, we'd still be able to watch you and tell if you knew how to jump. And this is true in all kinds of physical activities. If a man says that he once did this or knew how to do this or played this sport or used to have this skill or practiced this craft, other people can tell whether that story is true or not. And the danger that the boastful person faces, especially when he's making up a story, is that he'll be called out to show us this skill. And there will be no way out of it. In fact, any attempt to make excuses for why he can't show it will just make his boasting all the more useless. For example, if I was telling someone that I used to play baseball and they said, prove it, well, I could easily show them that I know how to swing a bat, throw a ball, play different positions, explain different strategies, and so on. It's easy to tell. Even if someone is older and no longer physically fit, it's easy to tell what level they played a sport at, just by what they know and what they can do. The same is true of an artist, a musician. A man may have been a professional musician at one time, and even if he doesn't play anymore or hasn't played in a long time, it will be easy to tell that there's a knowledge that remains of those past events. And so the boaster is always in danger of being called out and asked to prove it. And that's for sure a humiliating experience. And to be honest, people who did things in the past and don't do them anymore usually don't boast about them because they've moved on to other important things. I don't talk about sports stories from my childhood with my kids. I talk about my present works. We talk about what's going on today, what we're doing today, what's going on next month. That's the stuff we talk about. The things I did when I was younger aren't even impressive in light of the things I'm doing now that I'm older. And that's how life should normally be. Our present deeds should be more interesting than our past deeds if we're living a virtuous, constantly maturing life. So what's the point of boasting? Boasting is almost an attempt to make yourself appear respectable with words when no deeds or lasting achievements or reputation follows you. When you have no present achievements to show, you talk about things that happened in the past. You talk about them again and again and again. You tell the same story all the time, everywhere you go, talking about this one day when you did this one thing But that's not a respectable life. That's not a respectable life. What are you doing today? What are you doing today? Your present deeds, your present state of life, your present activities, your present achievements and projects you're working on, the fruits of your life, which should be all around you, they should commend you to others. And there should be no need for you to praise yourself, because the fruits of a good life should praise you. If you're a student, you shouldn't have to tell people that you're smart. They should know by simply having a conversation with you. You shouldn't have to tell people awkwardly that you're a Christian. They should know by the way you behave, the way you dress, the way you talk. You shouldn't have to tell anyone that you're strong. They should know because you help them, and they've experienced your strength. And if all of your good stories require that you go back in time, you need to stop boasting and ask yourself, what are you doing today? What have you done today? What are you doing this month, this week, this year? What are you doing now? That's what matters. What are you doing now? That's who you are. And everyone can see what you are now. The men in the alehouse in the fable could see what this man is now. And they, by their response, weren't impressed with this story of his glory days of something he did long ago. Who cares what you did long ago? What are you doing today? Maybe you could jump as a young man, but what are you doing as an older man? There are works appropriate for children, there are works appropriate for young adults, and there are works appropriate for older adults. Is your life filled with works appropriate for your phase of life, or are you still talking about things you did as a child when you're an old man? Let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. That's what wisdom teaches us. We're known by the fruits of our works, the present fruits, which everyone can see. We shouldn't need to tell boastful stories of our past, especially if we have to invent or exaggerate them. And this man, this boastful traveler, is humiliated by the other man in the tavern who calls him out and says, "Why don't you show us this great leaping ability of yours?" Which obviously he's not able to perform. So I think we could summarize the moral with that proverb, let another man's lips praise you and not your own lips. And then to think about how we can apply this fable in our own life for our own benefit. We can learn not to care about what we've done in the past, not to care about past achievements, but we can learn to mind our own business and work and seek to be wise and useful today to the people who are around us today, to be known not by our stories of good works from past days, but to let others praise us, if they will praise us. Let them praise us for our present good works. So this is the fable of the boastful traveler. Let us be marked by good works and avoid boasting, so that we can avoid this humiliation, but more importantly, so that we can do good and be praised by our good works, and ultimately by God Himself, who knows all things. This is Aesop's fable of the boastful traveler. God bless your studies.